right, everybody. Welcome to the Vortex Nation podcast Fall Hunt Recaps. This is not the voice of your host, Mark Boardman, because today, Mark is on the guest side of the table.
How the tables have turned. Eric, you are the host today.
I'm the captain now. There's an iconic movie about this. Look it up, everybody. We are talking about a very special hunt today, Mark. One that you've had to travel abroad, the hunt of a lifetime, the adventure of a lifetime, a cultural experience, and one that I don't think you're going to forget anytime soon.
No, Eric, you nailed it. All those things. I am on an absolute high right now. I can't even believe that this trip even happened. It was one of those trips that's been so far, in the future that all of a sudden it happens and you're there and you're plunked into this brand new environment. And it's just like, at the end of the day, like it actually I can't picture a way that it could have gone better. Like it exceeded any expectation I could have had. And I was hunting the Scottish Highlands in Scotland. And if anybody needs to know, needs some clarification there. And just absolutely a phenomenal trip in every single way.
And what were you chasing over there?
I was chasing red stags.
I've heard of those.
But also ended up chasing a few other things. Some things that I haven't even told you about yet. You've been prying all day for details of this trip, and I give you a few highlights. But I wanted to wait until we were chatting today, which actually is probably the hardest part of my day today.
Has been refraining
and waiting to have this conversation.
So for anyone listening, the Fall Hunt Recaps is obviously an excuse for you all to hear these awesome hunting stories. But selfishly, it's something that we get to take an hour. I know they're supposed to be 30 minutes. Sometimes a little longer. Mark and I are a little long-winded. But yeah, this is our chance to, sit down, get the details. Like you said, we've exchanged a couple text messages about the hunt. I saw a picture. We talked maybe for about 15 minutes this morning. But outside of that, I know.
Well, and you guys were prying. Were prying. The other thing, though, like with any hunting story, I always feel like you can glean something from it just because of the circumstance or the place somebody went or the strategies they implemented or whatever. And, I mean, I can say, like, this was my first time hunting internationally. Yes, I'm a big international hunter now.
I know.
And got to see a new place, do some new things, hunt, I guess in some ways very similar to what I've done a lot, but also some distinct differences from a cultural perspective and a historical perspective in the way they do things over there. Some really cool stuff there. And it just was, like I said, it exceeded any expectation I ever could have had. Yeah. Like when you picture how good something could go, and then you're like, whoa, that was better.
Which rarely happens.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing is like when you have a hunt like this, where you've got so much logistics tied up in travel, there's all that stress on the front end of like just getting there is an adventure. Like where did the I guess drive and interest in the hunt come from? How did it come about? Kind of take us through step one, like where and how did this all kind of come about? So
yeah, super cool. So I was actually listening to a different podcast. I travel abroad in my podcast listening as well. And so I was listening to Joseph Von Benedict's Backcountry Hunting podcast. Sure. Super good podcast, some good information there. And he had Rob Gearing on from Spartan Precision as a guest. And the topic was they were talking all about the Scottish Highlands and actually this place that we ended up being. And I was really intrigued by it because I'm like, man, this place sounds really, really cool. So I got on the old interweb like the next day, started looking, Googling Scottish Highlands, and the landscape looked absolutely incredible. Like that's actually what like really piqued my curiosity about it was seeing the landscape. I was like, I think this is a place that I may need to see and hunt someday.
And describe that. Like what did the landscape look like when you were, in your research phase versus like what it looked like when you showed up? Like I've, rarely left my home state of Wisconsin. So, when we talk about international hunts, that's something that's just so outside of my like comfort sphere. So like what'd you have in your head? What did it look like when you were researching, and then were those expectations met?
So, I'd say when I was in the pictures that I was looking at, it looked an awful like, I guess I can compare it to places that I've been, like the Alpine of Kodiak, or maybe like a place that I haven't been, like Brooks Range Caribou Country, which is kind of somewhat mountainous yeah. So that's what I saw, and I definitely, but it didn't hold a candle to what I saw when I got there.
Yeah, which was what did that look like? Like, what were your first impressions getting into the area?
So getting into the area, like we started when you're getting to, the lodge. So we were at, I also want to back up.
Yeah,
I
know.
Here.
We just totally jumped over the travel, but I'm curious because we're talking about the area, like, and I feel like that is such a big component of any hunt. Like you get to this spot, we talked about when we got to Kodiak, right? When we got to Kodiak back in 2022. We landed there, and I instantly, I remember looking out the window of the plane on the runway after we landed, and just looking up into these mountains, and the cloud level was so low that it just the peaks were gone, and I felt like we were in Jurassic Park, and that was one of those things that your first impressions of any area are something that that never leaves you. So what were you feeling when you land there, you get in, what is that? What's going through your head?
I mean, it was breathtaking. We hadn't even got there yet. I'm like, this place is stunning. And I'd say on the drive up, very strong Pacific Northwest vibes, Southeast Alaska vibes. There were times where if you told me oh, you're in Western Washington, Timber Company, Blacktail Country, I'd be like, I could buy that. But then once you kind of get out of that, and then it just gets up into this, alpine-y, rocky, and actually the hills are covered in a lot of heather, which is, it's a flowering plant, kind of has a purpley flower on it. Most of that had died off by the time that we got there.
How tall does that grow?
Pretty low.
It looks like tundra almost.
It is very tundra. So very tundra-y, tussocks and hummocks and uneven ground, extremely wet. Even when they haven't gotten rain, the ground is still, really, really wet. Lots of water. So that's another cool thing. If you need to get water throughout the day, you can grab some water. But circling back, I want to get to, so I'd listened to this podcast with Rob and Joseph. I end up at the Conservation Expo and get introduced to Rob, and we just, we chat for, quite a while. We're chatting about everything under the sun, and I'm a big fan of his products, had been using his products, so we're having all sorts of great conversations. And I go, hey, Rob, I want to pick your brain on the Scottish Highlands. I go, I'd never thought about this place before in my life, and now I'm looking at it, and I think, kind of like we said, I'm really curious about this place. And so we're chatting through that. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, well, we do a trip every year. I'd love to have you out. And at that moment, immediately, I didn't call home. I go, Rob, if you're serious, lock it in. I'll be there. Yeah. And he was.
Which is always the right move.
Yeah. And I'm so glad. Yeah. I'm so glad I did. And so I didn't really know anything about the hunt. That's details wise, if you will, except that I was in, and I guess that's all you need to know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you you kind of jokingly say and that's always the right answer, but I think it is. Opportunities only come up so often. If you're planning something and it kind of freaks you out a little bit, I always feel like that's a sign to do something versus shy away from it. And I mean, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing from a hunting standpoint more intimidating than international travel, like all these logistics. So before we get into the hunt, like talk to me about that. I mean, for someone that like has never done an international, like is it comparable from like here in Wisconsin, us flying up to, Kodiak, or is it still even just a whole different ballgame beyond that?
I mean, I'd say it's similar. I mean, it took a long time to get there. I think, I had a little bit of variance between both trips, but, between 20 and 24 hours of travel. You got a 6-hour time change. You've got custom stuff. I ended up going through London, which pretty big airport, and definitely, I mean, they had it. I would say like all my travel went smooth. I got there, all my stuff got there, so that's fantastic. But yeah, navigating a new airport and some of those things that I haven't had to deal with before, as far as customs wise, was definitely I felt like I went through like 7 different checkpoints where I was pulling out my passport, and maybe I'm probably exaggerating right now, but pull out your passport, okay, do this, do that, rerunning your stuff, your bag through like security machines. Even some of the security protocols are a little bit different, so there's some variance there. But yeah, like there was definitely a little bit of unknown there, and just like managing those logistics as you go. But definitely not impossible.
Yeah, totally. So you get there you flew out on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You get there early Sunday, I'm imagining?
Yeah, I flew out like, I think I left my house at like noon on Saturday, and then I landed at like 10:30 a.m.
in
their
London.
time Sunday morning, which is 6 hours ahead of us.
Yep.
So
you land in London. From there, what were the next steps?
So then from London, I went from London to Inverness, which is another
and that was
airport.
another flight.
So yeah, I went Madison, Chicago, London, London, Inverness. And then I jumped in I met up with the guys from Q Rifles. So Cody and Jordan, and then Andrew from Yeti were also on this trip.
Oh, nice.
So,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, initially I was like, oh yeah, sweet, let's go hunting. I'm like, oh, there's like, this is going to be like a big group of folks. And so yeah, Andrew had rented a van. So shout out to him for being able to, for volunteering to drive a car that's a right side drive, and also what I would consider the wrong side of the road. I mean, that's another interesting thing to get used to, is just like it initially, and probably even still, does not feel natural to be like turning into what feels like oncoming traffic.
God, I can't even just imagining that. It's like, does not compute. I feel like that would take some getting used to alone right there.
But yeah, and I think Andrew, he's done a fair amount of international stuff, so I don't think it was his first rodeo, but I will say it was a flawless driving performance.
Nice.
So yeah, from there it was about an hour to get to where the lodge that we were staying. Like I said, Kildermorie Estate. Just a fantastic place. As we approached the country, is just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that we're going to be able to be climbing up in this stuff, and got to the estate, got settled. And one thing that I thought was cool is everybody's kind of like I said, getting settled, and then the next day. Do you want to jump into the next day?
Well, I guess I'm really curious about the estate too. Like, talk to me about that. Like, is that, I guess for folks here stateside, when we think like a hunting camp, you kind of think like, I mean, hunting camp can be anything. It can be the bed of your truck on a truck bed hunt. It can be a wall tent, out in the prairie, hotel, or a cabin up in the woods, whatever. Any and all of those are like seasonal things. But like the estate, that when you showed me the picture of it, like it is breathtakingly beautiful. So, but is that a seasonal residence, or are people there all the time? Like, what's the story with that?
I mean, I think there's people there for
like maintenance and stuff
for like a good part of the year. I mean, they're conducting, experiences for people throughout the year. Right?
Okay, so it is truly like a recreation, like experience. Whether you're fishing, hunting,
You could be fishing, hunting. You could just go. You could go on holiday with your family there. There's lots of different things to do. Like, I wouldn't say you wouldn't have to be a hunter or an angler to enjoy this place. Yeah, it's a really neat place. The structures themselves are, like historically old. Lots of original furniture. I believe that even is from the original estate.
Unbelievable.
A little bit of mix of old and new.
How far back does that place date?
That I would have to look that up. In fact, I want to do a podcast with. We just ran out. I mean, we were so busy. You think like, oh, we're gonna be able to find time, but I'm gonna try and grab Sam Thompson, who he essentially is the head stalker there, and I mean he kind of leads the charge on everything that's going on there. Even from like a deer management perspective, right? Because one thing that differs from the model that we have, like we have a lot of public land here. Game is essentially the property of the public, right? So that's really amazing here. There, it's a little bit different, right? So on these estates, the game is essentially, the way I understand it, I mean, it is the property of the estate. So, game can go to market, can be sold to market there. One thing that I think is really cool about it is they can manage it. They can manage it so closely, right? Sam and his team there, like they know the estate, they know the deer that are on the estate. They're doing counts and trying to figure out, okay, we have this many red deer on the estate, we have this many Sika deer on the estate. We have these stags that we believe are X age. These stags that we believe are X age, and the other thing that's really cool is it's not necessarily managed for trophy quality. Sure. They're managing 100% for age, right? So what they're trying to do when they take a stag or have a client take a stag, they're trying to take a stag that's on the back end of its life cycle. It has hit its absolute peak and it is on the decline. Sure. Because the landscape and the weather conditions out there very harsh. Very harsh, right? It's a tough place to make a living. Even a stag in its prime will likely not be as big or have as big of antlers as like a stag that maybe lives in a different region with a little bit easier living.
And so like what is that climate like? Like you talk about these weather conditions. What are they dealing with up there that's so harsh compared to, say, I think when people think red stag, a lot of times we think New Zealand. In New Zealand is kind of like, and I mean, again, never been, but it seems like the utopia, right? Like it's just like they have everything working in their favor. You can kind of conjure up this image in your head of like this, gargantuan red stag with just like a crown of tines and all these things, on up top. But, these things seem like, at least where you're at, seem subject to like far harsher conditions. But like, what are those conditions?
So, yeah, I mean, I think, you can definitely draw a line. There's some similarities to that you might see to like, different types of hunts that you can do in New Zealand. And there's definitely some dramatic differences. Like these are, wild, free range, native stags.
Native. That is, I think, the biggest thing that's like the biggest takeaway there. Like this is where they're from.
Exactly. And I didn't bring this up as part of my why of being very interested in it, but that was something that was like important to me. I was like, I want to hunt these things like where they're
supposed
from.
To be.
And don't get me wrong, I've hunted things that are, axis deer on Hawaii. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10 times would do again, right? But I just, for whatever reason, I was like, that was a really cool component, that this hunt provided. I was like, this is just, it kind of made it, I guess, a little, maybe more meaningful. I don't know. Like, I just thought it was really neat.
Yeah. So like talk to me about the weather conditions that those that they're subject to every year.
So
like I mean, coastal, like is it near the ocean?
So yeah, you are. So I mean, I would say even though we weren't like necessarily like right on the coast, the air is very wet. It has that kind of like that marine feel to it. A lot of moisture in the air. I mentioned the Alpine of Kodiak earlier. I mean, not too dissimilar.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
The air was cold and wet. It was we got a lot of rain, a lot of high wind. but also like variable at the same time. Like we had some days where we had a little bit of everything, and it really depended on, you know, what 5-minute section you were in. So, but it made it really cool. You know, you definitely got to test your rain gear. And I'd say not only do you need rain gear if it is raining, but the ground is so wet and the country is so open that oftentimes you'll get in a situation where you are crawling for hundreds of yards in very, you know, boggy, like wet tundra type stuff. Yeah. Like it may not be raining, but you're going to need your rain gear on. Like I hunted in, like my pants every day was just rain gear over a light long john bottom. And then most of the time I had my rain jacket on as well, partially because you never knew when you were going to get into that situation where all of a sudden you're going to be crawling. Right. So you just kind of wanted to be ready for that. You know, oftentimes if it's not raining, like if I'm moving around, like I'm gonna layer down, and then like, oh, you know, and I did some of that too. It's like, hey, we're gonna be covering a lot of ground here. I'm gonna layer down, and then you know, when we get to the top or whatever, I'll throw my rain jacket on if I need to. But by and large, yeah, like, you know, rain gear over, like I had like a merino tee, and then like a lightweight synthetic hoodie, and then just my rain jacket over the top of that.
Totally. So, you know, before we jump into the hunt, like,
I should say by wind, I'm saying like we had a lot of stuff between 20 and 35 miles per hour. Yeah. Like it was
sustained, know.
Yeah, just blowing.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, when you're in sustained winds like that, I feel like you almost like kind of lose your, like, you're just like, you're in it so often that it's just like, man, when is this going to stop? Like it's mentally taxing as much as it is like physically being out there, you know?
It is, but I don't know, like it was just really cool being out there in all those conditions. Like it didn't, I mean, maybe part of it is I had, you know,
good gear
to, you know, fend it off. But yeah, it actually made it even cooler being out there. Yeah.
So before we jump into the hunt, one of the things that I'm even like kind of right up there with the estate that I'm super curious about is like the cultural, like I guess experience side of it. Like what is the vibe in camp? Like is it like what are, you know, you showed me some photos of like, you know, traditional hunting attire, and you know, like I mean, I think about opening day of the evening before the opening eve of Wisconsin's gun deer season. Fish fry, people playing euchre, you know, people kind of having a good time, you know, big like gatherings of tons of folks telling hunting stories from like bow season, like anticipation for opening day. What is the like? What does that look like on this hunt? Like, is it similar? Like, obviously, they take the cultural side of it very, very serious, because I was learning about things like tweeds and kilts today. So, like, talk to me about that.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a very strong hunting tradition, but also like it'd be like if you and I were like, oh no, I'm not gonna wear like my super high-end performance, whatever technical clothing. I'm going to wear the same wool that my grandfather used, right? So yeah, like, you know, hunting in their tweeds, and essentially like, you know, tweeds and wearing a tie while you're hunting.
And define what is a tweeds? Like, it looks like old. I mean, my dad has a pair of Woolrich like plaid hunting bibs. Mm-hmm. They don't look too different from the tweeds.
Right.
Is that
it's
similar?
It's fairly similar. Like I would call it like, yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, I think in Scotland, like, you know, tweed suits and things like that are very like, it's just it's woven into the culture, Eric. And yeah, there's one for you. Can I reel that back in actually? And so like, and I might be describing this incorrectly. Like I probably should have asked more questions, but like almost like wearing like what you might call like knickers maybe or something like that. And then like, you know, like a tweed vest or even like a coat and a tie, and so like that's your main hunting clothing for the day. But now that was on like the nice weather days, and then I'd say on most of the days we had what I'd call medium weather. And so it'd be like a combination of like, yes, I have all my my traditional attire on,
But you also need to stay alive out there.
but I need to stay alive, and I don't want to be soaking wet, so I'm going to put on, like a Kuyu jacket or something like that. So
and that's just, those are like, obviously there's plenty of modern advancements in like hunting, but it's the same thing as like here, again, my best example is Wisconsin gun deer season. Same reason like I might put on my grandpa's old hunting jacket is for hearkening back to like, guns, like earlier gun seasons, tradition, blah, blah, blah. Same reason. It sounds like, people respecting that traditional element of it and hearkening back to like the good old early days of hunting over there.
And it just like it carries a high level of importance, I believe, to honor that and to keep that moving forward.
And that's like, one of the things, like even just hearing you explain that, like that to me is such a indicator of like how people view hunting. You know what I mean? And like whether you're, in Scotland or in, Boulder Junction, Wisconsin, the same traditional values of like, hey, I want to like, go back to like the good old days and wear the old school stuff and, like the why behind people, no matter what you're chasing, whitetails up north or, red stags over across the pond, people are going into the field with the same like ideas in the back of their head, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was really neat to see, and it definitely added a really cool element just to the vibe and to see them how they work. We were working with not working with, but like hunting with, so you have stalkers and then we had ghillies. So the stalkers would be like like a more they'd be like what we would consider like, I guess, a hunting guide, if you will. You don't carry your own rifle. They essentially they'll carry the rifle, along with you.
Really?
Get either get it into place with you or get it into place and then potentially even call you forward. Like in every situation that I was in, like we were together, but it was like you'd get to a point where you're like, okay, I think this might happen. The ghillie, which would be like almost like a stalker in training, which is like a 2-year process, I found out. So like these ghillies will be, essentially assisting the guides and learning along the way and developing their craft for 2 years before they might either, if there was a position there, they might, be able to take that stalker position on. Oftentimes, I think within the network of the different estates, they all know each other, right? So it's like, I was talking to Sam and he's like, yeah, it might be like, somebody calls me up and says, hey, how are those ghillies, getting along? It's like, oh, I have this one, he's doing a great job. So
the ghillie seems pretty similar to like a packer, like, in Alaska.
I think that'd be definitely a really strong parallel. So like throughout like our days hunting, like if Sam was, the stalker, he'd be leading it. We would be, oftentimes like, in a line following him. And then the ghillie was actually at the tail end of the group carrying the rifle. So like once you got into a spot where it could potentially be go time, then the ghillie would move forward, get the rifle ready to go. And then I would move forward like with Sam into position. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked culture, we've talked travel, all the things. I think it's time to jump into the hunt.
Yeah, I'm ready, man.
Let's hear it.
I want to jump back into the hunt.
I know, yeah. So take me through it.
So yeah, like I said, we got there, got settled. The next day, and again, this is just kind of part of their process and their protocol. Like pretty mellow day, which I was there for that because that travel, like at least for me, like it definitely like it ate me alive a little bit.
Totally.
And I'm like, I was ready for like a mellow introduction. So we got up, had breakfast, went in, and they have a protocol of, hey, we're going to go to the range. They have a very nice range there where you can they have animal silhouette targets with, I want to say, like probably like 8-inch gongs in the vitals, something like that. 9-inch gongs, something like that. I didn't get the tape measure out. But so everybody shoots the rifle that they're going to shoot. I'll say this, I used estate rifles. I just personally, like the headache of trying to get a gun to the UK was like...
Not worth it. especially when they're already there.
I mean, that is a logistic that I would definitely pass along or pass on any day. So that was great. They had great estate rifles. Actually, the Q guys had sent a couple rifles like well in advance. So yeah, we everybody got to shoot the guns that they were going to be shooting, and that's too, you're doing a couple things, right? You're seeing if the gun is sighted in. You get to familiarize yourself with a gun that you haven't shot before, right? Likely. And then I think, they get to see, hey, where's this person's proficiency level at? Like, what types of, if they're having trouble hitting something at 100 yards, do we either need to maybe, I don't know, practice more, or do we need to just make sure that we get ultra close or whatever, but they want to make sure that, you can execute a shot and take, the game animal cleanly. So,
and on that note, like we're foreshadowing here, but you said they had kind of some interesting rules on point of aim on the animal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they go over also like where, and I don't know if this differs from a state to state, but they wanted you to take shoulder shots. So essentially, like, center of the shoulder, high shoulder shot. They're looking to break bone and hopefully drop that animal on the spot.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so
and they definitely brought up. They go, I know that, like, we're over here. I mean, it's oftentimes, tuck it in the pocket right behind the shoulder, heart lung shot, and they're like, no, we want you to break bone.
Yeah, totally. So okay, you've zeroed rifles. You're getting familiarized with the gun. First day is kind of like an R&R catch-up day. What do you see that first day?
So we ended up that evening going and, I should say this. So Cody and Jordan did go out and do some stalking in the hills, on the hill for the day. And I ended up going with one of the other ghillies, a different Andy, and sat in what they call a high seat. So. But think like an elevated box blind here, or a hide in Africa or something like that. So, but yeah, very nice high seat. I did see one Sika deer hind. So there's also Sika deer there as well. But which was cool. I'm like, I haven't seen one of those before. And so that was neat. And then, but yeah, that was a fairly slow night. I think Cody and Jordan, they came close, but it didn't quite come together. So, but yeah, it was still it really was just the nice, good day to ease your way into the whole thing.
Yeah. So meals that you get back to camp, what are you eating?
Very well.
Yeah.
So this is unlike most hunts that I go on. I mean, we had an absolutely beautiful place to stay. You had your own room. There was heat. They had multiple fireplaces. Eric, we had a chef.
Oh, man.
Tommy was absolutely phenomenal.
So you mean you weren't fighting over the biscuits and gravy peak meals?
No, which is delicious.
They are great.
Yeah, it was pretty, like, the hunting every day was very hard. But when you got back, you could, come back to a warm place, have a fire and get a good dinner and, like you said, refuel. So it was an interesting mix. Your contrast of the day definitely was differed from the evening vibes for sure. So yeah, we were, and eating some traditional Scottish fare. Ate haggis multiple times, which is like a mixture of, oh gosh, I should have looked it up. It's like essentially kind of like a mixture of lungs and like other entrails, if you will. I think is it lungs, heart, and something else, and then I think traditionally cooked in the stomach of
interesting
a sheep. I think I'll look it up.
Yeah.
So, but phenomenally good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay,
but I'd say in general, very like meat, potatoes, vegetable.
Totally.
Just
man, I'm getting
prepared in different ways.
More and more, parallels to Wisconsin gun deer season here.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's how I try to eat at home, like meat, potatoes, vegetables. So it's like, maybe I got some Scot in me. I don't know.
Scottish. So now that's day one is in the books.
Mm-hmm.
You refuel day two, you get out there. Take me through this.
So get up, have breakfast, and then we headed out to essentially what we would call, like a glassing point. And the spot was...
Is it a pretty, are you spending a lot of time behind glass?
Yeah, for sure. Like a strong mix of, moving about the country, but then also like definitely glassing along the way, for sure. And then off the go, glassing quite a bit, because they have this one point where you can see like really a lot of the estate. And, gleaning what I could while I was there, it'd be like, if let's say there were 3 groups going out, right? Like you have 3 different groups that are going to go hunt deer. Well, you're able to, but you're all not going to go in the same spot, right? So what their hope is, like I said, and this is me just gleaning what I could, is like getting a game plan kind of for hopefully multiple groups, and also having knowledge of, okay, so we know there's deer here, there's deer here, there's deer here, there might be deer here, there's deer over here. There's different ways you can approach those deer. You're going to approach those deer differently based on wind direction. You might approach them differently because you want to get to these deer that are over here, but these other deer are over here. You're not seeing everything, right? The estate is, I think, 19,000 acres.
Wow.
Right? So, but that being said, like going in with as much knowledge as you could, because versus just kind of bumbling about the country and, like, oh man, had I known that these deer were here, I wouldn't have gone this way, or things like that. So,
what are you using to access like into this stuff? Like, what are you driving in? Is this like, is this like 4-wheelers? Is this like...
So they had different 4-wheeler, 6-wheeler type, vehicles, and then a bunch of like very old Land Rovers.
Yeah, you showed me a picture of these things, and they look super cool. They also look a little like, they look like the upscale Jurassic Park Rover.
They're not. I don't think they're the new model.
No. Yeah.
And just absolutely super
and
cool.
Well taken care of. Everything looks super clean.
I'm trying to find one right now, if I may, Eric.
Yeah, like a boxy frame. Really awesome lighting on them. Like you can just tell, looking at the exterior of them, that they're older, but they're also like in super good shape. Like it's not your like beat up, Dodge whatever 2500 that's just loaded with rust and dents.
Yeah. So
those things are
maybe I'll give
sweet.
one to like MC Ryan to like throw a picture up.
Dang.
But
so it almost looks like wartime, like a Jeep of sorts, but like. Yeah, unreal. And what a cool rig.
And I almost think like the tweed clothing, like this like incredibly historic structure that we're staying in.
Yeah.
Everything is matching along the way, creating creating and crafting this entire experience. But I don't think it's not it's not it's not like all for show in a way, it's not like some sort of like, I don't think they're not doing it for like some sort of novelty type experience. Like I think it truly is like we said, like, honoring the history of, stalking in the Highlands.
Unreal. Okay. So that's how you're getting around. Now day 2,
so that's how we're getting around. Like we'd get up to the glassing point, there was a road that you could get up there. Once you come up with your game plan, though, you are leaving the road, and you are probably not going to see it for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that was a question that I had. Like, are you just driving around from spot to spot, getting out, hiking in a couple hundred yards, back to the vehicle, cover more ground? Or are you actually, like, just kind of traversing the landscape on foot, like trying to glass them up and move in? And I guess how common are they? Like, is it like... Are you going through lots of sightings? Is it not?
I would say depends on the day, right? So you've got your game plan, and then from there it's just trying to hopefully execute the game plan. And then we all know like the uncertainty of hunting and how things can change.
And they're rutting
can
at
move.
this time of year. Like they're in the roar.
So yeah, we did. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like we hit it really just right, because I don't think that they were doing a lot before we got there. Actually, it had been really hot and dry before we got there. So, Sam was talking about how even just a few weeks ago, all the animals were very much up high. They were, they were up in the wind, staying out of the bugs. They have a lot of midges there, that are uncomfortable for people. They're uncomfortable for the animals. So he's like, they're actually almost like acting like caribou, like herded up, big groups, up high, making it pretty challenging. So right before we got there, they had, a pretty significant rain event. So, weather cooled off, rain moved in, recharged the river. That'll become important a little bit later in this conversation. And also, rut started to kick in, animals started dispersing, and so making it a little bit more conducive to like, boy, we don't have all the animals just in this one spot at the top of the, a mountain. So they started, breaking up, and you'd find them in different places. So yeah, I mean, so that day, long hike, I don't know how many miles we covered, probably, 5 to 8 miles, I imagine, something like that. I don't know. Like we talked about, the terrain is like, I mean, it's not like extreme, but like it's definitely, I guess significant in steepness, and just your footing is very uneven. You might step in a hole occasionally. There's different spots where, I wish they have different terminology for everything, and I should have, like, I was trying to like pay attention, like, oh, you call this, you call that, but like you'd see like a very like vibrant green patch like that looks wet. They're like, don't step in that because like we may not see you again. A lot of peat
moss,
like peat bogs and stuff like that. And so so you're just like constantly like, it's not easy walking. Like even if it was flat, it's not easy walking. I brought trekking poles. I'm very glad I did. I just felt like, again, for the unevenness of the terrain, or you're crossing a lot of like little small drainages where like just being able to plant and hop over and get that support, I found to be like an incredible advantage to have that 4-wheel drive and take the load off my legs. Was slippery in a lot of spots. So you're just not fighting it. You're going to have the purchase to get up where you need to go. And I think you're actually expending a lot less energy. So I liked that. The stalkers generally carried like a traditional cane, and Sam's, even like the handle of it was curved and fashioned out of some sort of horn. Like, I had the black diamonds.
There you go. Covering ground in lightweight fashion. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I mean, we just covered a lot of ground. Like you said, we did a lot of glassing. We would sit, we'd take breaks and glass. We got into a spot where we were essentially around a lot of animals, but we were pinned down at the same time. So we actually were hoping to get to some stags that we had spotted in the morning. We had a bunch of mature stags and hinds up on this hill over here. And, I guess to what would have been our right. We're out in the open. Eventually, a couple stags that would have been great to shoot moved in from the left. And actually, I think they may have killed a stag on the neighboring estate that spooked these animals over in the area that we were in. No opportunity ended up materializing, but that was one of those situations where, again, you're navigating the terrain based on the fact that you're like, this is a blessing, that this is amazing that all these animals are here, but they're also making it difficult at the same time.
Definitely. So you're, it sounds like you're just in them. Like you don't specifically have like a direction planned out, or like, that's the one we want.
So we definitely had that plan, just running into these other ones, which again could have ended in like a great opportunity. We just weren't necessarily aware that these ones were going to be where, because you can't see everything from, that one spot. And so like, obviously if a great opportunity presents itself along the way, you're like, okay, well, abandon plan A because we have plan B right here in our lap. But yeah, it just didn't work out. I mean, throughout the day, hearing roaring, which is really cool. Have not heard a stag roar. We got to hear that a lot, which is like, it makes you feel.
And do you call back to him then?
We didn't do really any calling. Okay. We didn't do any calling, no.
What is that idiot doing?
I think a person could. Yeah. I think a person definitely could. Sure. But yeah, that's not something that I got to see.
They seem very similar to elk in the fact that like how they, I mean, one, their appearance is fairly similar. You can definitely draw some parallels, but then also in the fact that like they're so vocal, you know. And do the hinds make noise too?
You know, I would have to imagine that they do, but I didn't hear anything.
But it wasn't like cow elk where like they make a pile of noise going through mewing and.
No, I didn't hear anything like that.
Sure.
The high wind could have covered that up too, though, because like I said, it was just absolutely blowing the entire time. But yeah, eventually we had worked our way around, and I think ultimately ended up, close to where Sam actually wanted to get, and a lot of that is there's no direct route to where you could take a direct route and be like, oh, well, these are over there, so we're just going to go, beeline it right at them. Yeah. But again, you've got the wind is doing different things, and these guys know the landscape like the back of their hands. They're like, oh, the wind is going this way, so actually, if we want to get over here, that's great. We'll do that, and we'll end up over there. But we have to go all the way around over there to do it properly, and I think that's what we ended up doing. We got to a spot. I mean, we could hear roaring just like over the hill. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is pretty crazy. Now, like I said, I was hunting with Jordan and Cody from Q Rifles. Rob from Spartan Precision was with us as well. You mentioned a kilt. Rob is hardcore. He hunted in I'm like, dude, it's like, it is cold, wet, and windy, and Rob was hunting in a kilt the whole time.
Unreal.
And so Jordan was going to be the first shooter. So, he was up to bat first, and we can hear this activity go over the rise. And like I said, the landscape, it's so open. I think we had like 6 some people with us, which is, I mean, that's a lot of people to have with you.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Anything, right? So it's very much like, okay, now we're in a spot here, like we can't have 6 heads popping over, right? So Jordan and Sam, belly crawled for, at least 100 yards. Could see them set up a couple times. I'm like, oh, here, it's going to go down. And then they would reset up and crawl forward. So we're kind of all crawling forward, staying behind them, and but also staying below the crest of the hill, as not to foul it up. And then we finally get to spot. I'm like, okay, I think I can tell just from even behind, they see something, they can see them. They're getting set up. And I look over at Rob, and I'm like, Rob, do you think there's, 1 or 2? Because in my mind, I'm like, well, I can't see what's over the hill. Maybe I should potentially be ready if a second opportunity, presents itself or something like that. And Rob's he's like, oh no, I'm sure there'll be just one. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we talk a little bit, and he's like, maybe scoot forward a little bit. I'm like, which is in my mind, I was like, I think that's a good idea, because you just never know, right? And so I kind of creep up, and I'm still, well below the lip of the hill, watching this go on. Taking some video of Jordan preparing for the shot. Shoots suppressed, which is awesome, and I'm like, and I can tell by the way that they're reacting, he's made a good shot, and this is awesome. And a little bit of time passes, and then all of a sudden, Sam is giving me the get over here. Which he did reply after. He's like, I've never seen somebody crawl so fast. But again, we're shooting suppressed. I can't see what's going on. Yeah. And I'm just used to kind of all hell breaking loose when somebody lets one go. Right. So I crawl up there super fast. He's pointing out to me which one. And I'm like, he's like, yep, it's that. He's like, it's the stag in the middle of that group. But so he's pointing out to me, there's actually, a few different animals that I can see. So obviously we're communicating. We want to make sure that we shoot the right stag. Again, they're managing these things very, very tightly, right? They only want to take select stags out of the, the ones that are on the landscape there. And so we communicate. He's like, I'm like, yep. Okay. I see that one. I get on it, and it's this beautiful stag. He's rounding up all these hinds, totally fully rutting, completely just doing his thing at, I'd say probably 150, maybe a little bit more than 150 yards, like down and below and across. And like at that point, I'm like, oh, sweet, dude. Like we're good. Like we kind of have all the time in the world. Like we just need to wait for him to separate to, get to the right shot angle so I can take that shoulder shot. And so I'm watching him through the scope, and like it's just like crazy. Like it's just like he's just doing all the things that you'd like want to see a stag do in the wild, and he's got a ton of hinds with him. And eventually, like I said, he's right in the middle, but he separates, and then he eventually turns and gives me like kind of like a fairly strong like quartering two shot. And I said to Sam, I said, I can kill him right now. And he goes, if you like it, take it. And I just put it on the point of his shoulder and let it go. And he just, it just flattened him. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, even like I said, they're trying to shoot stags that are on the decline. When I was like looking through the scope, I'm like, are you sure this is I wasn't going to ask any questions. So I'm like, yeah, I do want to shoot that one, Sam. But he went down right away. It was like a perfect shot, exactly what you want. Parked him right there. Sure. And then like we went from just, a few minutes prior, because it was getting towards the end of the day. I'm like, I wonder what tomorrow will be like or what we'll do. Or, it's kind of coming to close to like, oh, we have 2 stags down.
Yeah.
And then we actually found out later that Andrew from Yeti had shot one that evening as well, like almost about the exact same time that we did. So it was really cool to have, to get to do all the things throughout the day and see all, even though it was really one long full day of hunting, I feel like I got to experience everything that I would have wanted to, even though it was in a pretty, concise time frame.
Sure. Unreal. So you get up, you recover the animal, and it is a stud. Like, he's crowned out on top. Like, talk about him a little bit.
Beautiful, super dark horns, ivory tips.
Yeah.
Like you said,
that was the thing that stood out to me the most, was those ivory tips. Like that stark contrast from that, like almost like Hershey chocolate brown rack to like just these like white piercing ivory tips.
I would say like very Roosevelt elk-ish. Like when you see like a mature, dark horned, ivory tipped Roosevelt bull. It was very like, to me, like it was very similar to that. And like you said, he's crowned out on top, which is just like kind of a quintessential stag thing. So I was lucky that he looked like that, because not all of them do that. And just really, just overall, just an absolutely like beautiful, beautiful animal. And his hide was amazing, and he had this dark stripe across his back, and just the highlights in their face and everything, like, is just like incredible. And Jordan's stag was like, a beautiful stag as well. And like I said, it was just like, I just couldn't believe, like, it's one of those things where you just can't believe that it happened, but it did happen.
For sure. Yeah, it's like one of those pinch me moments. Like, is this actually real life right now? So, and it was, I also knew at that point, I'm like, I don't care like what it takes. Like, I'm going to be on this hill again a few more times during this week, because like I certainly, even though I said like I got a lot out of it in that short time frame, like I wasn't done. I wanted to be up there as much as I could, because it was just, it was just, I know I keep using all the same words like incredible and whatever, but like it was a place that you really want to be once you get there. Yeah. So you quarter them out, or how do we get the animal out?
So that's another interesting thing. So, the ghillie will dress the animal. Again, you don't get to do a lot of things yourself, so you're kind of taking a back seat here. You're getting the full treatment.
Yeah, man, I need a ghillie.
I know, right? I definitely helped out where I could, but I was also like cognizant to, be like, hey, ask, or would you like some help?
Because this is their role.
That's their role, right?
What he's expecting to do.
Yeah, it'd be like, somebody come in here and be like, well, here, let me just do your job for the day. Like, and again, it's very traditional, and you want to be mindful of the culture and everything. But so yeah, did that. They drag them out whole.
Really?
So, or get them drug out to a point
what's the body size on something like this?
I would say like on like, less than a cow elk, somewhere probably between like a big mule deer and a cow elk.
Okay, sure. That's where I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Like looking at him, I would have guessed like a bigger, big mule deer buck, like maybe a little bit bigger than that. Because like body characteristics, they look more elk than they do deer, but they definitely look smaller than like your average, Rocky Mountain bull.
So yeah, so get them field dressed, drag them out, and some of the drags that we did throughout the week were somewhat shorter to where you could maybe get, one of they call them the bikes, one of the bikes close to it and get it loaded on that. Not always though, not always, and definitely got to experience that well, which was just part of the fun also. But so that definitely put a big cap on essentially that first like full day of hunting. And I was like, I can't believe this happened. This was absolutely amazing. We had just a phenomenal hunt. And but I certainly wasn't done yet.
Yeah. So that is a good prelude to something that I learned about today called the McNabb.
I'm not ready to get there yet.
Okay.
Eric. I probably led you into that.
You did.
So I want to go into the next day, which was essentially a weather day.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So we got out to the glassing point, and you really just couldn't see anything. We hung out there for a few hours, and it's just like, again, you don't want to just go bumbling about the country and fouling everything up. So we kind of took a little bit of a day off. Some folks sat in the high seats and things like that. But so we kind of lost a little bit of a day. Sure. The next day we went out, and so we're trying to get Cody from Q, an animal. And man, we hit the day with a mole, a different ghillie, and just like, did a ton of hiking, covered a ton of ground, got to see some beautiful, beautiful country. And that day culminated in, later in the afternoon, Cody getting a stag as well. And that was the drag that we were pretty far back in. There was not a good way to get any sort of vehicle close, so we drug that out. And that was one of those times where I think it was like, even though I asked, I think a little bit of help dragging was, welcome versus like not just like, here, you guys do this, the whole thing. So got to help out with dragging that thing a fair bit. It ended up having, we had to drag it across a river that's where Mole and Joe, the ghillie that was with us today, they took it across the river and got their feet wet. We went around and found some rocks to get across. But, and so, so we get back. And I'm like, well, shoot, it's probably like, I don't know, close to 5 p.m. Yeah. We still have some daylight left. So I text Andrew, and I think he'd fished that morning. And I'm like, hey, we're back. Cody shot a tremendous stag. Yeah. Do you want to hit the river and go fish? Yeah. And he texted me back immediately. He's like, well, he basically said, yeah, get out here. And and so we got the fishing gear ready, which I'd say, again, very traditional, very different than what I might do for Pacific salmon in Washington or up in Alaska. They're using spey rods, which actually I really only spent time casting a single-handed fly rod. So spey rods, very sparse, minimalistic flies with very small hooks, which I'm used to fishing like, bright colors, marabou, big bunny leeches with, with weighted heads, and what I would consider an appropriately sized salmon hook, vibrant colors, purples, chartreuses, hot pinks, things like that. And they're just fishing very sparse, in my opinion, like trout-like flies. Like I said, fishing it on a spey rod, a lot of like swinging of flies and things like that. And which is cool. Like, I'm like, okay, I want to embrace this as well. Like, I actually, knowing that there might be an opportunity to salmon fish, I did throw in a very select pouch of what I thought might be some secret weapons.
There we go.
Some choice lures, some thingamabobbers, some beads, some big, like I said, vibrant bunny leech type things. And I did refrain from dipping into those. I'm like, okay, Mark, soak it in. You're here for a reason.
Totally, 100%.
So Andrew and myself, and then Oliver from Spartan Precision, who is a fly angler himself, all got to go down and hit the river. And like I said, we only had an hour and a half to fish. We'd spread out, and it's starting. Daylight is definitely starting to wane, and and again, I wouldn't say I'm a accomplished spey fisherman, but I've run a rod enough and fished enough that I knew ultimately what I wanted the fly to do. My delivery method might not have been the most textbook. Sure. Yeah. But every cast, like I said, we'd gotten a lot of that big rain event had brought the river way up, likely sucked some fish in. We'd seen some fish on jump when we'd been down to the river before. And it was one of those days where you're like, every cast holds promise today. Like it dropped back into shape. It was perfect. And I'm swinging this fly through it, and all of a sudden I just get a bump, just a couple light bumps. I'm like, that's a fish. And I give it a, I didn't like set the hook or anything. That's one thing that Rob said. He's like, just wait for them, just feel that tick, and then just, essentially give it a lift. So feel that tick. I can feel some weight, almost like, I'm like, yeah, there's something there. Give it a light lift, and all of a sudden it just goes boom, 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 and I get just some head shakes. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got one. Which I may have actually said in a slightly higher pitched tone to Andrew and Oliver. I was like, I got one. They run down, they grab the net, probably fought it for about 10 minutes. And again, you're fishing this small fly with
it can get head shook at any second.
Yeah, and just with a tiny hook, like a very tiny hook. I don't know where this thing is hooked. I don't know if it's in just the outer skin of his lip or whatever. So I'm fighting it very softly, just, letting him go when he needs to go. I'm not horsing this fish in. I'm taking my time. And Andrew, he nets it. And I was like, dude, I lost my absolute mind. I was like, we did it. Like, I couldn't believe that I'd caught an Atlantic salmon.
Unreal.
And just super cool looking fish. It had been in the river a little bit, like it had darkened up a little bit, but does not matter. Like it was so cool. And he was just hooked firmly. He was actually hooked in his bottom jaw, in the tongue. So I ended up, and it's just such a small hook. I just cut the line. We got some pictures, cut the line, let him go back, and hopefully to do his thing. So
so cool.
But I knew that I was excited, Eric. Yeah. I was very excited about this because I knew it was a very special thing and a rare thing to happen. But I didn't know how special and how rare until I got back to the lodge, and we're like, I got one. And then it was it set in motion a series of the energy at the lodge was very high at that point, and it set in motion my attempt at the McNab.
Unbelievable. This is so on brand.
Which the McNab is, I'll give a brief, essentially.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar.
Yeah, if you're not a world traveler like me. The McNab is if you catch a salmon, shoot a stag, and 2 grouse, and a brace of grouse within a 24-hour period.
So how many hours in are you right now?
So in a lot of ways, I caught that salmon at the perfect time because I caught him at about 6:30 p.m., which...
So how many hours?
So by 6:30 I had essentially till 6:30 p.m. the next day.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sure. So you get 24 hours from when you catch the fish.
Essentially. Now, you could do it in any order. Like, you'd be like, oh, I shot 2 grouse today. Let's go, right?
Now, yeah.
But the salmon is really the keystone of the whole thing. It's the hardest part. It's the part that's it's the rarest.
Yeah.
That's least likely to happen.
It's like hitting for the cycle and getting the triple is your first hit.
Right.
Like, that does not happen.
I mean, that's a good analogy, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we get back. I mean, they're calling people up, seeing if they can potentially line up dogs for the next day.
No way.
Everybody's
so this is like a big deal.
Dude,
like
it was a very big deal. Like, people who had plans to hunt, like, the focus, honestly, and I felt a little...
McNab.
It was the McNab, and I felt a little bit guilty about that. But it was also like, you could feel the energy.
Yeah, everyone wanted it.
Everybody wanted it. And it was like, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
And I was actually on their website today, just kind of poking around. And one thing I didn't know until now, in the last 30 years, they've only done it twice.
Wow. Holy cow. I did not know that.
And I think a big part of that, though, is it's just like, it really is it's the challenge of doing all those things in one day. And then like just the rarity of even having the opportunity because of the salmon component.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, like that was like, honestly, like I was feeling a lot of pressure because I could tell like how important it was
for them to get this thing.
Yeah, because it's just so elusive, you know, and that wasn't like, you know, intentional on their. I'm like, oh man, this is like really a big deal. Yeah. You know, Sam described the salmon. You know, we were talking about it. He goes, it really is a gift to catch the salmon. I'm like, that's a really great way to describe it. Like, super fortunate to just be in the right place at the right time and encounter this fish and just this rare experience, right? Sure. And just the opportunity to even attempt this feat, if you will, is just, you know, rare. So like, again, the whole thing was a true gift. So yeah, I mean, we went out the next day, we had multiple people trying to glass, and
glassing for grouse.
So we went for the stag first, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because, that was it. Like, because it has to be in a 24-hour period.
Okay, so you don't have to shoot the stag. Somebody else can shoot the stag.
No, I was going to shoot the stag.
Oh, so you were going to shoot another one.
Yeah, so like it was like an opportunity, which
Got it. Okay, that's where I was confused because I was like, well,
you're like, dude, you're tagged out.
Yeah, okay. I'm following now. So now, okay, you're clocking in for numero dos.
I'm clocking
Let's go, boys.
Which again, I felt kind of like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already like, you know, shot this, you know, amazing stag. Like, I don't really need to just be stacking them, but like, I mean, rules are rules.
It's a McNabb.
Rules are rules, Eric. You know, who am I to argue?
Yeah.
And so, we go out early next morning. Like, there's no messing around here. We're going out early. We've got multiple people trying to spot. And actually,
no kidding,
I felt like the grouse would be kind of like the second hardest part because there's actually not a ton of grouse either. Sure. And, you know, like, you know, lining up a dog and things like that. So I would have assumed that we would go for the grouse first. But in talking to Sam, he's like, well, oftentimes the grouse are where we're hunting the deer. So if you go in, you know, guns a-blazing with dogs and you get your two grouse, that's great.
But you might run off.
Yeah, but now where'd the stags go? So we went in, and then right off the go in the morning, and I haven't told you this part, Eric, right off the go, Sam spots a Sika deer.
No kidding.
And it's a nice one. And he's like, okay, here's the deal. If we can kill this thing, we're killing it. And I'm like, again, who am I to argue?
Am I going to find out right now that you killed a Sika deer?
Yes.
Oh,
you're hearing
my God.
You're hearing it live.
Dude, unreal.
So Sam spots this thing up on the hill and just like gets just like a brief glimpse of it, and it lays down in all these ferns, right? So he's like basically now he's like gone, but he's bedded in the spot. We've got a couple other guys on glass.
Yeah.
You know, they're backed off a ways. Sam and I move up the hill, get to probably about 150 yards, and I really haven't even seen this thing yet, just because he was out so briefly. And so Sam and I are communicating. He's like, "Okay, you see the big, like the three like dead trees?" I'm like, "Yep, I see the 3 dead trees." "Okay, do you see the red bush?" "Yes, I see the red bush." He's like, "Okay, he's between those two things." So I've got a really good idea of where this thing is. We get the tripod out, which we're using the Spartan Hoplite, which actually I would say, so I've used the the Hunt Tac Pro bipod a fair amount. I love that thing. I've used the Springbok shooting sticks, Eric. I know you're familiar with those.
Yep.
Per your last elk hunt, successful elk hunt, I should say, that we podcasted about. And this, like on this trip, like the Hoplite was just like the ticket, because like oftentimes there was rocks that you could set up on, or just the roll of the hill, and you just had the time. And, so you're essentially shooting off a tripod, but it all accepts the same foot.
Magnetic foot, yeah.
So we get the gun set up, and I'm on, like, there's a big flat rock in front of us, and there was a space between this rock and then, like, a big rock behind it. So I wedged myself between the two rocks. I'm on the gun, on the bipod, and I'm just like, well, Eric, I was rock solid. That's 2 for the day. And but it really did, because I was able to tuck myself, and so I had pressure. I was basically like almost shooting off my knees, but I had pressure holding me in from the rear, and then was just locked in. Like I had a very solid shooting position. And then all of a sudden, Sam's like, he's up. And I'm like, and I can't see him. I'm like, I know I'm looking in the right spot, but I cannot see this thing. Well, I was looking for, they have a very dark chocolate body to them. So I'm looking for not necessarily the whole deer, but the color that I'm looking for is just that rich, dark chocolate. Then I'm looking through the scope, and I'm like, oh, I see him. Well, because he was in all those ferns, even though he was standing, I could just see him looking at me, and then just like part of his neck.
Yeah.
And in talking with Sam, he's like, these things don't stick around to find out. Yeah. Like, and he was up and he was looking at us, and I don't think he didn't really have us made. I don't think the wind betrayed us. I think he could just, like, Sam's like, these things have a sixth sense. Like this is all post. He's like, he could just tell something was wrong that he didn't like, and he stood up. Yeah. And so I'm like, I see him, and Sam's like, and Sam's like, shoot him in the neck. And so I just held right on his neck, let her go.
Jeez.
And just like,
how far of a shot?
Probably about like 150, 180 again. So like the shot distances on both animals but heard the bullet hit, could see him like kicking a little bit, but Sam was like, that was a good hit. And then we went over there, and he was dead.
Let me see a picture of this thing. We're doing this real time. I can't even believe that you've refrained this story.
We had Oliver, who is like a professional photographer, videographer.
Oh, sure.
So he's got a lot of really good pictures on his camera, and then which I was like, I thought about taking some of myself. I'm like, just
do your thing.
Just do your thing, right? But I did.
So did you end up with the McNabb then?
So it has to be a red stag, because otherwise I would have been like, I was like, do we do the Sika deer version of the McNabb right now? Because it was like 8:30 a.m. or something like that, and we've already just had this like insanely cool thing happen. They are a striking animal, super beautiful, like just very rich colors. To me, like, again, I guess I equate them to things that I know, like they're almost like a black-tailed deer-like thing, like as far as like just the coloration in their face, and yet like their mane, they have like almost like a Roosevelt elk type mane on their neck, and so this is not a good picture, but that is
unfreaking believable.
I was just he had a split ear. They're super aggressive. They're fighters. Like, apparently they don't miss a chance to get in a fight. And when they're rutting, and that's the other thing. They're like, pound for pound, like these things are just like incredibly aggressive.
Unbelievable.
Which is just like, so now I'm having this like truly unbelievable experience where I've shot an amazing red stag. I've caught an Atlantic salmon on the fly rod. Now I've shot a Sika deer, and the day's not even over, and we need to
find a brace of grouse.
Hopefully find a stag. So we're still on the hunt for the stag, Eric. And, ultimately we hunted hard all day. We did get on one stag that ended up being bedded like below us in this really like, like cliffy type stuff. Yeah. And I don't know what happened. The wind got us or whatever, and he came boiling out, and he would have definitely been a great stag to shoot. Like, he was, definitely a mature stag, but, on that back end, like they like to see, and there just was no shot opportunity. And we ran into some red deer throughout the rest of the day on a handful of occasions, but it was either, not the right one to shoot, or just not the right position, or the right opportunity, or the wind to get to them just wasn't. And we ran out of time. But honestly, like, as cool as it would have been, like, to say that I didn't have like probably one of the most fulfilling trips of my life would be like, because I did, right? Like, you can't, so it was just like, and that was.
So this sets a new challenge into motion here for us.
Oh, are you gonna tease up my idea?
I think we should tease the idea. The Wisnab.
The Wisnab. I was driving on my way to work today, and I was like, oh, geez, Mark, what do you like about Wisconsin? I'm like, well, we do actually have steelhead. Yeah, we have deer, and we have grouse. And you can do all three things in the same month. In the same day.
Less than 24 hours. So, if you want to see this, drop a comment below. We might give it a rip next year.
I think it's like I want to do it.
We're gonna do it.
The Wisnab.
Yeah,
it's a thing. We're making it a thing.
Yeah.
So, but like I said,
pre-order the T-shirt.
The Sam and his team at Kildermorie and the Spartan, Rob, Oliver, Hannah was there. Like when we shot Cody's Stag, Hannah was with us the whole time. She's
Super
amazing,
cool.
and just like and it was just really the people and the place and the animals. It just all came together, and I'd say I think the light shone down on me a little bit, and I guess every now and again you get to be the person that has an experience like that, and I'm super grateful for everything, and couldn't appreciate it more. And it's just I feel like I'm very aware of what I was given.
Totally. And that's the key. I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better person. You know what I mean? Like,
thank you,
seriously, like it's super cool to like you say, like when it shines down on you like that, like having the self-awareness to recognize that is half the battle. And like if you're soaking in that moment, like you're there for the right reasons. And I think that's, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Like, and I think that's the interesting thing of, anyone that's been following along this like new series, whatever that we've been doing, like, yeah, there's a lot of really cool hunting stories that come out of this, but it's always the people, the place, the things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing that you're kind of hanging on to after, that like, that high of like shooting the critter is kind of worn off, like you're holding on to those things. And I think that's pretty cool.
Well, and I know we've already gone incredibly long here, but when you talk about that, some of my most cherished moments of this hunt were actually the times when we were, maybe we're waiting for these animals to go over the hill, but it was taking like an hour. So you're tucked into a rock, you're in the wind, we're talking about everything under the sun of like, traditional, UK type food, or what do you like, and just having these like, or, fun conversations. And like, those were definite highlights of the trip. It's like, yeah, I got to, shoot these critters and I caught the salmon, but there's gems in there that are woven throughout that are just as meaningful. And it was just so incredible spending such meaningful time with such good people in such an amazing place. So
awesome, man. I could not have said it better. That is, I mean, it reminds me of the blackberries that we got into on Kodiak. Just sitting up there, fogged in, eating blackberries. That's such a core memory.
Oh yeah,
or blueberries.
Blueberries, yeah.
Of that trip, like eating those blueberries up there is such a core memory.
Just taking a step back. We got time to kill. We're in this incredible place.
Yeah, I think about that. Like that's something that stands out. And we killed 6 blacktails on that trip.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
I don't know.
You've had a good trip, and I experienced on this one, like as you're far away from home, like you're not around your family, right?
Yeah.
But when you're also like really bummed out that you're leaving at the same time, you're like, yes, I want to get home and see my family, right? But we're like,
yeah,
I'm going to miss this place.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Man, I couldn't think of a better place to end it.
All right, we'll close it out, my man.
Yeah. Well, that is one heck of a story, Marco. Thank you for listening to this rendition of Fall Hunt Recaps on the Vortex Nation podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. I think we got a good one on the docket of buck that might have just hit the ground less than 24 hours ago. So
24 hours. That's the new theme.
And also tune in for the Wisnab next year.
We'll
see you later.
Bye.